What's going on, y'all? This is Traveling Man. Do my next video. Today's video I'm gonna do about DMX. Rest in peace to that brother. It's called. This one's called "You Can't Save Everyone." It's gonna be kind of a long one. I gotta try to just get everything. I'm gonna cover everything 360. And first and foremost, for those living under a rock, DMX passed away on April 9th of this year, 2021. Hey man, this one hurts because it's almost like somebody you grew up with. I grew up listening to DMX in high school. His music was like the soundtrack of my high school. Very talented artist, very passionate about what he was doing. The first time I heard him was like 90, I think it was 95, when Mike Geronimo had that song "It's Time to Build" that had um, Mike Geronimo, Ja Rule, and Jay Z. Like I said, he came out the gate, and he actually didn't have that many hit singles, but his albums were just selling like crazy. He's the first artist alive that was living to have two number one albums go number one the same year. I mean, he had everything popping. So, and it was always kind of like that kind of dark side, like almost like the angel on one side, the devil on the other side. He expressed that in his music, but his music had meaning. It was powerful. So hey, man, his music's gonna live forever. So I definitely want to give him credit for that. His music's gonna live forever. He was a real artist. His music was powerful. He had messages in it. So I mean, you wanna just I wanna you don't wanna beat anybody down. You wanna give people their credit. I was big fan of his music, and prayers for his family. But I'm gonna take this thing 360 degrees. And these are all things you can research on your own, between his autobiography, between documentaries, interviews with his family, and his whole crew. Was really when you really see what was going on. And he did have a hard life. Like I said, I'm gonna go all the way in on both sides, but grew up with no dad. His mom was abusive. Unfortunately, that kids are impressionable, so when they deal with this type of abuse and things at a young age, they never really know how to get over it, how to deal with it. I think he said on that the Rough Riders Chronicles, his mom had like left him in a he did something. His mom left him in like a room for like the whole summer. Basically, he can only like use the bathroom. His mother was abusive. Beat him with extension cords and whatever else she can get her hands on. Like physically beat him, starved him out a lot of times. She said one time, she I think took him somewhere upstate New York, and took him out the car and was like, "Hey, you like this place?" So yeah, it looks pretty nice. Yeah, I guess it had grass and things like that. He said, "Yeah, well, you're not coming home. This is where you're staying." So she left him there, and that just stuff like that just shattered his world. You develop that kind of like arrested development kind of state of mind. You don't want to trust anybody. So I think that's kind of where the origins kind of happen of his issues. After that, really, I guess before that, he was really getting to his mischievous thing, robbing people. I mean, that was just what he did. Robbing people left and right in Yonkers. This is where it started, and people have talked about this, and more of this has come out since he passed. That unfortunately at 14, his man that gave him a woola. For those who don't know what woola is a blunt laced with crack, and he didn't tell him. So the guy took a hit. I mean, DMX took a hit, and then that's where the addiction came. When I was, I never messed, and I'm not a drug person personally, but I remember a friend of mine that happened to him too. He got addicted to coke. I think a friend of mine friend of ours, like gave him like a primo, and he didn't know. He was like hooked for years. So that's some dirtbag stuff to do to someone. That's a scumbag thing to do to someone. But that's where his addiction, came to the surface, and it was on from there. He was just robbing people left and right to support his addiction. Now, around this time, I guess, early teenage years or whatever, a couple of good things happened to him. One thing was he met his wife, Tashira. They met, and that was his rock. She believed in him from day one. She was the only one who supported him when her family and everybody, her friends said, "Hey, don't mess with this dude because his reputation." She stuck with him because she knew that he had a good heart. Also, D and Y from Rough Riders, they knew the guy was talented. They knew in order for him to get right, he has to get out of this environment. They knew the talent that he had to get him out of there. And they talk about, there's so many horror stories. Them pulling this dude out of crack houses at 3 in the morning. Um, and to a because his life was in danger at the time. There was all kinds of stuff. Read his book. He talks about how he was robbing so many people. He'd rob people with his mask off, and a couple of times, like some cat shot at him, literally. And literally right before he got his deal, some guys, and this was actually because he had a reputation of robbing people. This guy kind of mistakenly identified him, and they beat him almost to death. You know, so it was really serious. And DNY, like they were front line for DMX, like to the point to where that's why I don't hear nobody say, "Oh man, they didn't help him out." They did help him. To the point to where they said like he would, they would come to the studio to lace for him to come lace tracks, and he's like, I'm gonna go down and smoke a cigarette. You wouldn't find him for 3 to 4 days. I mean, that was the kind of stuff that was going on. And these dudes literally went to the drug dealers in Yonkers and said, "Hey man, y'all ain't gonna sell it to him no more. We got a problem." You know what I'm saying? If you haven't been front line for X like that, you can't tell me nothing. Can't tell me they didn't help. They're putting their lives at risk for to help him. You know what I'm saying? They were busting their gun for X. I mean, that's come on, man. That's dangerous. These dudes are like not even being mean. Say, yo, man, this dude's one of my best customers. Why am I gonna stop selling to him? You never know who these guys are, who they got with them. I got a crew of 10 or 20 people. We go back at the past. They telling me who I can't sell to. They did that to Shearer and all this kind of stuff, trying to get this guy clean. And even with that, and shout out to I'm gonna give a shout out to Doggy Diamonds. I'm not trying to promote, but hey man, that brother's got one of the realest shows out there. He did interviews with the Shearer years ago. And she was like, nah, man, because a lot of people want to put the blame on Def Jam. Shout out to Russell Simmons and saying, hey, we could have showed him more love, but she was like, man, we be honest with you, we kind of hid that from them because we felt like him getting on, he'd have access to help, and he would be focused on his dreams or what he was able to do. That's why people don't realize when the first album came out, DMX is Dark and Hell is Hot. DMX was like 27 or 28 when the first album came out, and that wasn't the only reason. There was a couple other failed deals and stuff like that, but that was a big part of it. They couldn't shake his addiction. Like we can't just get this dude focused to put tracks down. So that's one of the reasons why it took so long for him to blow up, man, for him to come out. 27, 28 because of his addiction problem. So he finally signs his deal with Def Jam, and then I think 97 started making his rounds of guest appearances, and he came out in 98. And when he came out, he blew up. Multi-platinum album after multi-platinum album, and everything came to him. The money, the drugs, the ladies, all that kind of stuff came to him at once. But he blew up. I mean, all his dreams that he had came to life. He was the number one artist in the industry. Period. I mean, of any genre at that time. At that time, excuse me. People forget when his first album. I mean, even around that time, he was doing a lot of movies at the time. The movies did pretty well. He was getting paid millions of dollars for these movies, so he had everything at his access, at his hands at the time. I think he at the time I think even Tashira said he wasn't doing drugs for maybe his first album, second album or so, something like that. But then when it all came, crashing down. Everything's at your hands now. Instead of you having to rob people for your addiction, you just make a call and it comes to your door or whatever, and just everything fell apart. And like I said, the whole Rough Rider staff, he did have a team of people that tried to help him. People forget he went to rehab in 2002, 2017, and like 2019. So he's been to rehab. It's not like nobody tried to help him. It's just you can't help somebody. I'm not saying like help yourself, but man, if you got people around you that care about you that are trying to help, if you don't want to accept it, I mean, there's nothing nobody can do at that time. And I remember and like I said, I'm a fan, but I can say when something's not good and something's good. His first 4 albums were dope. But in 2003 when he dropped Grand Champ, you can tell, and like I said, me and my friends are fans of him too. It's his album Grand Champ, his 5th album. You can tell he started to slip lyrically. You can tell. I was like, you can tell like things started to slip, and that was when the addiction was in full motion. He was getting arrested left and right. And see that's what happens when you got have these kind of problems. And like I said, X is a good brother. Don't get me wrong, he's a good-hearted brother, but he's stubborn. He is. And you started to notice, like, watch these documentaries and things like that, and they'll tell you Tashira and these documentaries when he came to the industry. Of course, you meet your industry friends and things like that, but his solid base was Tashira and DNY, the whole Rough Riders camp, Swiss and all them. That was his family, so to speak. If not bloodlines, I'm talking about his, Tashira, was actually his, got married, but that was his foundation. That was his base. Once he broke away from them, that's when things started to fall apart. Let's be real. I mean, you started getting around these yes men. That's when you started to see. In the early days, it was just them or industry people. Then you start to see these other random people come around. Because let's be real, these people are going to enable him. They're not going to tell you, yo, man, what's going on? Or you need some help. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or, hey, man, let's go to rehab. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. As long as you're fitting the bill. And even with Tashira, like I said, anybody would tell you from the minute, but that was his rock. That was the person that he could trust from day one. That was the person who held him down. She's not one of these ladies that married him after he got money. She married him when he had nothing. Put him out the house when he was, I think, in his early 20s because, he wouldn't stop robbing and being addicted. And they had their first child together. He said, I can't deal with this. You know what I mean? She stood up to him, and unfortunately, they divorced in 2010 because X dogged her out. Hey man, we get it, man. We love ladies, man, and we know it's just to be honest and play devil's advocate. When you get into the industry, you got the most beautiful women in the world throwing themselves at you. It's kind of hard to turn that down. I'm just being honest, but man, he was doing that dirty macking, man, getting other women pregnant while you married, man. That's not a good look, man. Just being honest. Just nobody's perfect, but let's be honest. That's not a good look. He got like 2 or 3 other women pregnant while he was married to Tashira, and she had enough and broke away from him. When she divorced him, that's when it really all fell apart. That's when you started to see this arrest after arrest after arrest, from drug addiction to when he went to try to impersonate a federal agent at an airport, driving on suspended license, just a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And it was like it not even trying to be funny. I saw in a couple of interviews with maybe Sheik Lucha the Locks or Styles P from the Locks, and people were saying man, X is getting to a how's because they're from the same camp, the Rough Riders camp. They're like, man, how's X doing, man? He's he's getting locked up a lot and getting to a lot of issues, man. What's going on? They almost started laughing. It was like, dude, man, y'all don't know this dude, but y'all don't know X. We've known him since we were teenagers, man. That dude's been getting locked up. They don't throw him under the bus. It's like he's been had his issues and been getting locked up. That's nothing, So that's when you really saw things falling apart. He started aging fast and everything else. And don't get it twisted, man. DMX made millions. He made millions. He should be a multimillionaire. Everybody in his circle have, for the most part, in that what I mean in his circle, I mean as far as the artistry wise, they're doing well for themselves. You know what I mean? Your Jays, your Nas's, your Irv Gotti's, your Ja Rules, all them cats that he kind of came in the game with, they're doing well for themselves. But they said even in Rough Riders Chronicles documentary, he didn't really care about money. And I understand that from a perspective of you having a good heart and helping people when you can. But they said he just gave money away. He didn't think about that. He gave money away. And he spent his money on what he spent it on, not just the drugs. I'm talking about just whatever you want to spend it on. He didn't save his money, nothing like that. But you have to realize if you really want to, because like I said, he was a good-hearted brother. He really helped a lot of people. But you really can't help people unless your finances are straight. And I'm gonna take a little beeline here. Some people might not like this, but I'm gonna be honest, just give you the facts. That's why let's go back in history a little bit. This is the difference between. Well, no, matter of fact, let me use another example. David Banner, the rapper David Banner. When Katrina happened, he did the most work out of anybody, and he said that Jim Jones, the rapper, told him man, I can tell, man, you kind of down, man. You know why? Because your money ain't right. He was like, man, all the work you did is admirable, but he said the difference between you and Jay-Z is you got to work for months, scrap and scrape, make calls, get this person, send this money to this person to get something done. Whereas, and this is just an example, anybody, Jay-Z or some celebrity that's got more money than you, they can make a phone call to Walmart. Hey, give them whatever they need. You know what I'm saying? And then at the end of the year, this whatever $100,000 I send, I can use as a tax write off at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have your finances straight in order for you to help somebody else. That's life right there. Um, and like I said, let's go back in history a little bit. This is why, and like I said, now, some people might not like this. It's just honest. This is the difference between Elijah Muhammad and Martin Luther King. Elijah Muhammad was more successful, not as far as popularity, but as far as the results, because he had money. His organization had money, even though the Nation of Islam was a smaller group. Their finances were straight. You remember Martin Luther King was his whole thing was integration, and he didn't even have the money. Martin Luther King died broke. Not trying to be mean, it's true. He didn't have he was did all this marching and getting beat up and thrown in jail. He didn't have the money to get himself out of jail. That's how bad it was. You had people like Sammy Davis Jr. getting him out of jail and things like that. He didn't have the whole money to get him out of jail. This is why, if you see towards the end of his life, Martin Luther King was look up these interviews. Martin Luther King said, "Hey, I'm done. I'm done marching. I'm tired of marching. Our people need money. We need resources." He started talking about reparations, and he got killed after that. Hey, we like all this "I have a dream" stuff. You start talking about your people getting money. We don't like that. But he met with Elijah Muhammad, and Elijah Muhammad told him, like, "Hey, man, you're doing all this integration stuff, but our people still don't have money. We might be a smaller group, but guess what? We have several businesses that we own. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter how much, if you can't, and this just goes back to childhood, if you can't feed somebody, you can't tell them what to do. That goes back to childhood. You listen to your parents, or, you should listen to your parents. Why? Because they put a roof over your head and put food in your belly. If you don't have that, you're not going to listen to that person. That's why the Nation of Islam was so prevalent at that time, so powerful, because on a basic level, not only did they get your mind settled, they gave you a job. Everybody had a job. If you went to Martin Luther King, you couldn't get a job. So that was kind of like the conflict. Like, brother, we want to follow you, man, but we don't have any money. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Elijah Muhammad had all kinds of businesses popping. And like I said, they patronized white people at that time. Hey, yeah, they're white, but when they come into this grocery store, this clothing store, this dry cleaners, it's yes, sir, no, sir. Money is green. So that's when you start to see Martin Luther King's message kind of change towards the end of his life, because he met with Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad didn't meet with him. He said, "Hey, man, I got my people clean, and we got money coming in. So that's how I help my people. You know what I'm saying? I can't help my people when I'm in jail. I don't have the money to get to feed my family or feed them. I can't do that." So I know that's kind of putting the quarter in the meter right there. But you see what I'm saying? In order for you to help your people, you have to have your finances straight first. And another thing about DMX is he had been to jail so much, it really just didn't bother him anymore. Like, truthfully, like, DMX going to jail is like us going to Walmart. It just didn't bother him like anymore. Even some of your toughest gangsters, even they say, "Hey, man, whatever." When I was put in jail, that's what woke me up. I got tired of that. You know what I'm saying? Me wake up every morning, have what I'm saying, somebody telling you when to eat, when to sleep. You know what I'm saying? These guards talk to you however they want. Sometimes they're abusive to you. I couldn't deal with that. That's what woke me up. Even his fellow friend and colleague, Styles P. We know Styles P is the real deal. Even he was like, dude, after a while, Styles P hadn't gotten into no mess in a long time. He's like, dude, I done paid millions of dollars in lawyer fees. Dude, I don't like being in jail, being locked up, having to shower with a bunch of men, etc., etc. And you ever heard Styles getting any mess in years, over a decade? You know what I mean? After a while, you wake up, but going to jail for DMX, it just didn't bother him. That's something. How you gonna wake up somebody if they're not scared of going to jail? To the point to where, like I say, he kept getting arrested for like stupid stuff, like driving on a suspended license. Like, even that show he had, Soul of a Man, one of his buddies that was with him, he was like, "I want to drive, dog." He's like, "No, you're not driving, dude. Your license is suspended." Like, just something small, like, dude, just let your man drive so you don't get locked up again. Just stuff like, he got to the point where he just didn't care. And there's nothing you could do for somebody like that in that regards. And it's taxing, man. You know DMX spent millions of dollars in lawyer fees. And that stuff starts adding up. You're just throwing money down the toilet when it's stuff that it doesn't have to be. But that was his choice. And that's the thing about addiction. I know I know I don't want to say what DMX died from. They said it was an overdose. I don't know for sure, so I don't want to just say I know 100%. I don't know. But the thing about addiction that's hard is it has to be a change of lifestyle. Your lifestyle got to change. That lifestyle, like I said, not only people will tell you this dude was drinking. It not only was crack. He was like this dude would take a bottle of Hennessy to the head. He was alcoholic too. You know what I'm saying? So that stuff starts adding up. But what I'm saying about addiction, you have to change your lifestyle. People that you're around all the time, you can't be around anymore. Like I said, this is why you start to see his circles change. He started having a bunch of yes men around him. That's going to just do what he wants them to do instead of his people that'll say, "Yo, man, what's going on? Yeah, come with me to rehab." But you can't put a gun in somebody's head and make them go to rehab or make them get help. You have to change your lifestyle. Hey, if you're a person that hangs out with people that drink and you're alcoholic, you can't be around those people anymore. These people that like to get high or these environments, you can't be around them anymore. I don't think even the necessarily the addiction side as far as substances is hard. This is a change of lifestyle. There's people that say, "Hey man, I had to give my whatever my wife or my parents or whatever while I regrouped, I had to give them my cell phone because I knew I would call somebody. And I'd have a cell phone for a year." You know what I'm saying? It's a change of lifestyle that has to happen, and that's the hardest thing. Being he didn't want to do. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. It's hard, but nobody can make you stop using. Like I said, I'm in a field where I deal with addicts and things like that. And let me give you just a quick example. Like I know a guy. This guy he had drug issues and he went to jail. I can't remember what he went to jail for, maybe assault or something like that. Robbery or something. I can't remember what he went to jail for. Now, they worked it out in court to where, okay, you can get out of jail right now. All you got to do is go to rehab because he had a severe drug problem, which is amazing to me. And let's be, I'm just be honest, the gentleman was white. See, black people, we don't have no choice but jail or jail. That's your choice. You can go to jail or you can go to jail. This guy had the opportunity to go to rehab or go to jail. He went to rehab for 1 day and ran away. And it was a warrant out for his arrest. He had to go back to jail. What are you supposed to do about somebody like that? They said, "Yo, you out of jail right now. Just go to complete the rehab and go to the next step in your life." Nah, he went out of jail the first day. I got in contact with his people. They were like, "Nah, he has to go back. There's a warrant out for his arrest now." That was the decision made in court. He has to complete rehab in order for him to stay out of jail. He's like, "Well, I don't care." He went back to jail. Can't help nobody like that. What are you supposed to do? And I think a lot of times what has to happen is, matter of fact, I'm gonna go here. Like Richard Pryor, when he was freebasing, rest in peace, Richard Pryor, he said that, like his addiction had gotten so bad to where his dealers didn't want to sell him any. You know what I'm saying? Dealers like, "Hey, come on back. I got all the money." But he was going through like a kilo of cocaine freebasing in like 2 or 3 days. And his dealers were telling him, "Man, stop. You just slow down, man." You know what I'm saying? He still couldn't stop. Even after he lit himself on fire. Go read his book. I think it's called Prior Convictions. I read this book back in the day. He said, and I think there's an interview with Barbara Walters about it too. He said that even after he went through all that, lighting himself on fire, almost dying, going through all these procedures and surgeries, and all that pain, he said when he came back home, he found his secret stash of freebase and started smoking again. You know what I'm saying? After all that pain, all he dealt with, being addicted, he still couldn't stop. And quiet as kept, he really didn't stop until he had to when he got multiple sclerosis. There's nothing you can do. And the thing is, usually, to be honest, people have to hit rock bottom in order for them to get well most of the time. They have to hit rock bottom. They have to not have any money. A lot, what I'm saying? Not all the time, but that seems to be more effective. You know what I'm saying? DMX, no matter, now, he's going, like I said, he's had millions. It was taste repugnant as a witness reporter did, but they showed all the houses he had throughout his career. He went from like a beautiful, like maybe $2.5 million house in Harlem and Manhattan, and his houses just kept downgrading, downgrading, downgrading. He went from these houses to with 4 and 5 bedrooms to a house with like 1 or 2 bedrooms because he had to downgrade because his money got spent. But like I was saying, these people have to hit rock bottom. Our sister Whitney Houston, she excuse me, going back to DMX. DMX he still had money. He still can probably go do shows for like at the minimum probably 10-20 grand a show at the minimum. So he still had money coming in no matter what. He was still active. He would be on TV shows and stuff. So there was always a way for him to make money. So you don't really grasp what's going on. And like I said before, he really didn't have a concept of money. And this is why D and Y, like I said, they were the CEOs of Rough Riders. This is why they didn't, because the Rough Riders Chronicles, they were saying that DMX saying he wanted ownership in Rough Riders. This is why they didn't go that route. They said, man, we never promised him that. And I'm gonna be honest, I believe them, because DMX is not a businessman, and it's not even no disrespect. He's not a businessman. Matter of fact, remember DMX had that label Bloodline Records. He had his own label. What happened to that label? Fell apart because DMX is not a businessman. He don't want to wait. He don't want to be in the office for 16 hours a day like DNY work. He don't want to catch a flight at 5 in the morning to go to LA. I'm just giving you an example, to get contracts signed, to get a tour get set up. He don't want to do that. And you have to be honest with that. Even people that are doing well financially, they know, hey man, I let my lawyer or my accountant handle that. They do well for themselves. You have to know what you're willing to do and not do. And that's why they didn't want to mess with him. But like I was saying, people have to kind of hit rock bottom, I think, for them to kind of wake up. Whitney Houston, she still had millions. So that's why, rest in peace to our sister Whitney Houston, she still had millions when she passed away. So that's why there was no, quote unquote, come to Jesus moment. There was no halting moment because her lifestyle didn't change. That's one of the reasons Bobby Brown had clean. Once again, Bobby had millions, but when him and Whitney broke up, Bobby was broke and he was homeless. He was literally sleeping on people's couches. He didn't have any money. And at that time, in New Edition, the rest of the fellas were working together. And even they said, like on Blueprint, Ricky Bell was like, look, they didn't throw him under the bus. Hey, man, Bobby's our brother. We love him. But, until he gets himself together, he can't rock with us. This is how we feed our families. Like, we're not playing around. Of course, Bobby got clean and, he's doing well for himself now. You know what I mean? But like I said, he had to hit rock bottom, not have any money, going from living in this big mansion in Atlanta to having all this kind of jewelry on it to having nothing. That's what woke him up. A lot of times, that's what happens. Even in that show, Intervention, that comes on TV. When you watch that show, a lot of times, that's why this addiction things lasts so long. These people keep going around in circles because their parents enable them. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, why should I stop smoking why should I stop using drugs when I got my mom giving me money every time I need drugs? Or even if I gotta get it on my own, I come home to a warm bed and a roof over my head. Now if your parents put their foot down and say, yo man, hey, you come with me to get help or you get out of my house, and it's 20 degrees outside, okay, well, you know what? That'll wake me up more. I got a habit, but I ain't I gotta sleep under the bridge. That wakes people up. But when I can come home to a warm bed, I mean, there's no reason for me to quit. So a lot of times people have to hit rock bottom to get well. I'm not gonna say these ladies' name. This lady that worked with my dad coming up, sweet lady too. She passed too. God bless her. She had a son that overdosed and died when he was like, I think he was like 17 or 16. Because unfortunately, she kept enabling him, saying, if you get off heroin, I'll buy you something. He told her, you can't do that. You have to tell him, hey, get clean or you get out of my house. I'm going to take you to put you in a group home or something. You can't live here if you get clean. And dude, she kept enabling him and he overdosed. So a lot of times people have to hit rock bottom. And he never really hit rock bottom. So there was no reason for him to get clean. And, and this is what we have. It's unfortunate. Like I said, prayers for his family, but this is just what happened. This is the way he chose to live. You can't make somebody do something they don't want to do. There's always somebody else, man, they didn't help him do. Like I said, if you didn't bust your gun for DMX, if you weren't pulling DMX out of crack house at 3 in the morning, you can't say nobody didn't help him. He didn't want the help. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. So that's his life, unfortunately. And I'm gonna end it off like this. I have to go here. I know this is kind of rough, but I have to go here because it's real. Ayana fixed my life. Now I ain't gonna lie, we all kind of laughed at the episode at the time because we knew it was gonna be a train wreck. But this is how it ends. Ayana fixed my life. That came out. That episode came out, and the very end of that episode, DMX was talking with his first son, and they were going back and forth. He stopped dealing with X because he was like, "Yo, man, you got other women pregnant while you were married to my mom. I couldn't deal with that." And like I said, he was verbally abusive to Shira. Like I said, check these interviews where she said that and see how he talked to her on that couples therapy show. He was verbally abusive, and she dealt with that. But man, getting other women pregnant while you married, that's a bad look. She wasn't going to deal with that, and rightfully so. She left him. But that was where the conflict was with the son. He was like, say I want you to be, you felt like no remorse after what you did to my family, to our family, the way you talked to us, the way you cheating on my mom. I didn't appreciate that. You were always. They said he said he didn't get high from them in front of them, but he still was having these addiction problems. And DMX finally at the end said, "Hey, son, I'm sorry. I didn't know anybody with a dad. I tried my best. I was trying to figure it out, man. And I hurt you, and I'm sorry about that." And you thought this was a moment of clarity. They embraced, they hugged, they cried, and at the end, he was like, "Hey, Dad, I want to have a relationship with you." He said, "Me too." He said, "But I want you to be clean." DMX was like, "What? No, man, love is unconditional. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be clean." He told this is not some homeless person on the street. He told his firstborn son that I'm not going to be clean. Love is unconditional. You're supposed to love me the way I am. He said, "Hey man, I want you to be clean for us to have a relationship," which makes sense. And what did he tell his son at the end of that interview? He said, "Hey man, I that's not going to fly with me." And he said, "I'll see you at my funeral." DMX said that. Facts. I'm not putting words into his mouth. He told his son, "I'll see you at my funeral." Those are prophetic words right now. So in the end, man, you can do what you got to do, man. You can't save everybody, man. You can't. DMX lived his life how he wanted to live. He had people that tried to help him. He's been to rehab several times. He wanted to do what he wanted to do, and this is the result, unfortunately, because 50 years old, come on, that's too young to be gone. 50 years old is not old at all. But he lived his life the way he wanted to live, and this is the result, unfortunately. His reckless lifestyle got back to him. And just years of wear and tear on your body. Alcohol, drugs, this stuff starts adding up. And like I said, he just didn't care about anything. This brother has 17 kids, I believe. He didn't care about nothing. It wasn't just the drugs, the reckless lifestyle, the reckless spending, all these babies' moms. Man, like, come on, man. As you can see, his whole life just fell apart. He did what he wanted to do, and this is the result. Unfortunately. So, this is. I hope he found some peace. That's the only thing I can hope for. Praise for his family and everything like this. But this is the way he wanted to live his life, and this is the way it ended. So that's what it is. So I know this video was kind of long. I had to break it down 360. If you're going to comment, please let's have an intelligent conversation. But man, y'all have a good one. Take care. Peace.